Hello all, welcome to another session in this course. As part of this session, I am going to cover the next topic, that is anonymous functions in JavaScript. So let's get started. What exactly are these anonymous functions? The topic here is anonymous anonymous functions. There is another name for this anonymous functions, that is function expressions. Okay, this is another name for anonymous functions is function expressions. And you can also call them as nameless functions. Nameless functions. Anonymous functions means nameless functions, functions that doesn't have any name. Okay, you are going to create some functions without any name. Those are called as nameless functions. Anonymous functions are nothing but nameless functions, and they are also called as function expressions. So traditionally, when you create a function, you generally create like this function, okay, function and name of the function. Like this, you will create a name of the function and the body of the function, and here you will write the code, okay, the code to be written inside the function you will write. But when you create this anonymous functions, or when you create this function expressions, you'll be creating something like this, okay. You'll say function, circular bracket, starting of the function and ending of the function. Does this particular function has any particular name given? Here function name is there, but here this particular function doesn't have any name. The function keyword is there, but there is no particular name in this function. What we can actually do here is we can store this function into a variable. Okay, so we can write like this const or let or const, you can write whatever you want. Okay, one of the keywords you can write, and just give something like this abc fun is equal to, like this you give. Okay, here this is a variable name. Okay, here function name you are giving in the form of a variable name. Okay, you are referring to this particular nameless function with the help of this variable name. So when you have to call this function, traditional function which is having the name, okay, which is having the name, you'll be calling like this abc fun, like that you'll be calling this function calling statement. What about here, how you call this nameless function or anonymous function or function expression function type of function? How do you call this? Using the variable name you have to call. Okay, using this name, variable name given to this nameless function you have to call. So abc fun, like this. Okay, same way we have to call, right? Here also you're calling whether the function is given with the name, or here nameless function assigned to some variable, that variable name and function calling statement you have to write. So this is what is called as a anonymous function or function expressions or nameless function, whatever it may be. Let me give some examples and give some practical demonstration on this topic, guys. Let me open the Visual Studio Code, and here let me write the code, that is anonymous.js, like this I'll write. And here I want to create a function abc fun, like this you can write, and then console.log. Okay, hi. If I want to call this function, I can call like this abc fun. I need to call. If I run this code, what will happen? Here abc, this is a traditional function. This is not an anonymous function. This is a traditional function. When you create a traditional function like this, you can call this traditional function using the function name. And when you call this node mus.js, if I run this, you see this function has been called, and the code inside the function got executed, and hi got printed here. Now what if I write down here? Something like this function, let's say fun a, and here if I write a comma b, okay, console.log a plus b, if I write, then how to? This is a traditional function, right? How to call this traditional function? Fun a 5 comma 4 I'll call. Okay, what will be printed when I call this function? 5 is the argument which will go into the traditional function a, parameter a, and 4 into b, and a plus b, 5 plus 4 is 9 will be printed here. Okay, let's see. You see 9 got printed. Now I want to convert this traditional functions into the anonymous function or function expression type of function or nameless functions. For that, I'll remove the names. ABC fun I am removing here. And what I will do here is I'll write const. Okay, const name of the function as a variable name. Okay, here I'm not giving the name for the function, rather I am assigning this function, nameless function, to the variable. And how to call this function? Same way. ABC fun we have to call. ABC fun you have to call. Using the variable name, you have to call the function. And now what about this one? If I have to make it a nameless function or anonymous function or function expression, here we have to write const, okay. Let's say fun a is equal to like this I'll write, okay. So this is also a nameless function or anonymous function or function expression type of function which has a variable name but doesn't have the function name. A variable referring to the function which doesn't have any name. In that case, use the variable name here, fun a, and then parse the 5 4. 5 will go into here, 5 plus 4, 9 should be printed here, okay. Let me clear this and run this code again and see. Both got printed. You see? Understood, guys, the difference between traditional functions and these anonymous functions in JavaScript. So, hope guys you understood this particular topic, anonymous functions in JavaScript. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye bye. Hello all. Welcome to another session in this course. As part of this session, I am going to cover the next topic, that is function constructors in JavaScript or function constructor in JavaScript. So let's get started. This is another type of function we have in JavaScript, guys. Function constructor, function constructor is another type of function we have in JavaScript. And do people use this often? No, guys, it's rarely used. Rarely used, and it's not recommended to use also. There are a lot of other categories or other types of functions available. When compared to that, this is least used and it's mostly not used. Fine, but still, as part of knowledge, let's understand what exactly is a function constructor. Here in this function constructor, function is an inbuilt object, okay, predefined object in JavaScript. Function is a predefined object in JavaScript, and I'm going to create a function using the function constructor by using the new keyword, okay, new function. Here I need to give the circular brackets. Here I need to give the circular brackets, and you just put a comma here. Before this comma, you can give any number of arguments. Okay, if you have any arguments, you can give. If you don't have any arguments, you don't have to give anything. Okay, so here we need to give some parameters or yes, parameters, guys. Okay, we need to give the parameters here. Then the final parameter should be the code of the function. Okay, the code in the function should be the final parameter that should be surrounded by single quotes. Okay, the final after end last parameter of this particular, here before this comma you can have any number of parameters, but the last parameter should be the code of this particular function that should be surrounded by single quotes. And here I'll write the code, guys. Console or we can write any code. Console.log a plus b I can write, or I can write return statement. Anything is fine. Okay, here I can, in the single quotes I have to write this statement, or I can simply say return a plus b is also fine. Anything is fine. Okay, anything is fine, guys. So here I'll simply write down console.log of a plus b. What are this a plus b? This a plus b, I'm going to create them as parameters. You see, whatever the parameters that need to be used by this code will be provided here in single quotes. Okay, a is surrounded by provided by single quotes, b parameters surrounded by single quotes. Okay, like this we need to create this function, guys. New function a b, like that. And okay, this is how we need to create a function constructor in JavaScript. Okay, this is how we need to create a function constructor in JavaScript. And how to call this function constructor, I'm going to show you. So I have some notes with me. So using the notes, we are going to use this function constructor in JavaScript. Hope you got the knowledge or basics of okay, how to create a function constructor. Let me recap again. In JavaScript, the function constructor is a way to dynamically create new functions using the built-in function object. Here in this code, here in this code, this function is a predefined or inbuilt object of the JavaScript. Okay, function object. For the function object, I am saying new function. Okay, I'm using the new keyword. I'm calling the function of this function object. Fine. The next thing here is, like this we have created, right? Like this we have created. Now what else we can do here is, what else we have to do here is, this we can assign to one variable name like const, let's say fun a, or okay, function a, or whatever it is. If I have to call this function, how to call this function? Fun a, circular brackets, and you have to pass the arguments. If I pass 5 comma 4, what will be printed? 5 will go into this a, 4 will go into this B. Console.log of A plus B, that is 5 plus 4, will print in 9. 9 will be printed in the output console. Let's try this in the Visual Studio Code, guys. Let me, okay, here write down function hyphen function constructor.js function constructor. Okay, here let me create that function constructor. For that new keyword, function is a inbuilt object in JavaScript and circular brackets. The last parameter should be the code surrounded by single quotes. The code of the function should be written in this last parameter of this function. I'll be writing like this. I just noted, right? Console.log of okay, A plus B, I'll write like this. And here I need to give the parameter surrounded by single quotes. A is one parameter, comma, B is an, you can give any number of parameters here. It's not just two, it can give any number of parameters. And in order to call this function, this particular function doesn't have any name. So we have to store that into const fun A like this. Give some name, variable name. This variable name will become the function name now. And call this function like this. And pass 5 comma 4, let's say. While calling this function pass 5 comma 4, what will be printed? 5 will go into A, 4 will go into B, and console.log 5 plus 4, this 9 will be printed. Okay, run this code. Node name of the JavaScript file, that is a function hyphen constructors constructor.js. If I run this, you see 9 got printed. So this is very, it will not be used much in the real time, guys. Okay, just for knowledge purpose, if someone asks you what are the different type of functions we have in JavaScript, you can give this as an example, but we generally don't use function constructor in JavaScript. Okay, so other type of functions we may use, but this one is not used much in the JavaScript programming by the people. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye bye. Hello all, welcome to another session in this course. As part of this session, I am going to cover the next topic, that is IIFE functions in JavaScript. So the topic here is IIFE functions in JavaScript. So what is the full form of this IIFE? Here I stands for immediately invoked function expression. Okay, immediately invoked function expression is a full form of this IIFE functions. Immediately invoked function expression functions. So what are these? These functions, unlike traditional functions, are self-invoked functions. We don't have to call these functions. These functions will call themselves. We don't have to specially call them. Okay, in order to generally traditional functions, for the code that is there inside the traditional functions, we need to call the functions with their name and all circular brackets and all we need to call. But here in this case of immediately invoked function expressions, functions, we don't have to call them because they will call themselves only. Let me practically demonstrate how this IIFE functions can call themselves. So let me go to this Visual Studio Code and just create a new IIFE.js, I'll say, and here let me create a function. This is a traditional function, guys. First I'm creating a traditional function. Later I'll convert the traditional function into a IIFE function. Okay. I'll say fun A. Like this I'll create. And here inside this function I'll write console.log. Okay. I'll say hi. Okay. Now if I run this code, nothing will get executed. If I run this particular code, the function is not called. So the code that is there inside the function won't get executed. But if I call this function node space IIFE.js, if I run, you see, I'm not getting any output because I need to call this traditional functions, fun a, like this function calling statement I need to write. I need to write this kind of function calling statement and run this statement. Then you see the code that is there inside the function will get executed. The code that is there inside the function will get executed if I do that. Now, I don't have to explicitly call the IIFE functions. I'll convert these traditional functions into the IIFE function like this. Okay. What you have to do is the same function, you keep it as it is and surround with circular bracket first. Surround this entire function with the circular bracket and remove this name of the function. There is no need to give the name because these are self invoked or self callable functions, right? They will be calling themselves. There is no need to give any name. Okay. And the earlier function without the name, I'm putting inside the circular brackets. Now here put a semicolon here, and before the semicolon, you provide circular bracket like this. Okay, if no parameters are there, you can provide the same circular brackets here. This part will call the function which is there inside the circular brackets. Okay, so I don't have to call this particular functions explicitly here. Okay, this block itself will call the function. Okay, these are IIFE functions, guys. You see, I'll clear it and see that I'm not calling this function, but here this particular thing which is part of this IIFE function expression. Okay, IIFE function type, this part will call the function. Okay, this is self-invoked function. Node space IIFE.js. If I write, you see, I'm getting high. That means the code that is there inside the function is getting executed. Now let's go back. Let me remove this and create another function. Function add a comma b. I'll say there are two parameters in this case of traditional function here. There are two parameters in this one of the example add function of this. Okay, and here if I write console a plus b, if it is there like this. Okay, now if I run this code, the sum of this a and b will not be executed. Okay, so you just see here what will happen. Node space IIFE dot js. If I say the function will not get executed, guys, how to call the function? Add function calling statement. Since there are two parameters I need to pass, let's say 5 comma 4 I'll pass, and this time what will happen? This function will be called and 5 will go into a. This is a traditional function. Okay, 4 will go into b and 5 plus 4, 9 will be printed. Okay, now run this code and see 9 got printed here. Okay, that's very good. Now I'll convert this traditional function into a self-closing function. I mean, IIFE function, self-calling function, that is IIFE function. For that, I need to remove this function name. Okay, first thing is that you have to remove the function name and surround this function without the name inside the circular brackets. This is the next step. And now you need to put a semicolon here. Before the semicolon, you just have to copy this part and paste it here. That's it. That's it, guys. You don't have to, this function doesn't have any name, and this is what is self-closing function. Even though you don't call it explicitly from a separate line, this block itself will call itself. You see, this part will call this function, and 5 will go into a here, 4 will go into b here, and a plus b will happen. Okay, so this is what will happen, guys. Now run this and see. You see, we got the 9 printed. Okay, so this is what is a self IIFE function, guys. This is what exactly is a IIFE function. And you can also convert this this kind of style into arrow function kind of style also. Instead of this, you can also write like this. Okay, I'll just take a copy of this and write like this. I'll just say a. Okay, and then here I'll put an arrow mark, and console dot log and semicolon I'll remove, and this curly brace I'll remove. You see, this is also fine. In a single line I can create this. Okay, so I converted this normal function into a arrow function inside this IIFE function. Okay, so this also will work in the same fashion. In a single line, this function will call itself, guys, and 5 will go into the a, and 4 will go into b, and a plus b, 9 will be printed. Just run this code and see, still 9 got printed. Okay, so these are the ways of using this, guys. And the other properties about this IIFE function is that the scope is, okay, a new scope will be created, and the scope will be restricted to this particular function itself. So for that, let me, do one thing. Function. Let me create something. Traditionally, we'll generally create a variable, guys. Okay, where a is equal to 5 I created, and then here function b like this I'll create. Console.log. I'll say b. Okay, console.log and say hi. Otherwise, okay. So this is one variable and this is one function, and the scope of this variable and the scope of this function is throughout this file, throughout this JavaScript file. But I want to restrict this scope. I want to restrict this scope to a particular block. I don't. Okay. So if I write here console.log a, I can access. If I call this function like this, you see, the scope of this variable and function are throughout this JavaScript file, so I can access it anywhere. I can alter the value of this particular variable anyway. Okay, I can call this function anywhere in this particular file. Okay, if I just see here, if I run this code, you can see that I can access. Okay, if I got printed and I got printed. This is not IIFA function. This is a traditional variable and traditional function whose scope is throughout the JavaScript file. So what I will do here is I'll put this particular variable and function inside this IIFA function. Okay, inside this IIFA function I would like to create. How to do that? First I have to put the circular bracket, and I need to end the circular bracket here. I will end the circular bracket here. Okay, and here I'll write down function like this, starting of the curly brace, and here I'll end the curly brace. Okay, like this I'll do, guys. Okay, what will happen if I do something like this? This is the IAF function, and here I need to self call this function, right? I'll just self call this function using the circular brackets, and so here there's a function. Inside the function there is a variable, uh, and let me write like this here. Okay, like this I'll write. Okay, so now this particular variable and function scope is up to this particular function only. You cannot access this variable and function outside the this IAF function. Okay, if you want to restrict the scope of this variable and function outside, from outside the, you don't want to access this particular variable and function outside this particular function, what we can do here is, okay, function where a is equal to 5, function b is equal to console.log hi, and now what I need to do here, guys, I need to, I'll do one thing. I'll just need to try to access this variable. Okay, is it possible or not? Let's see. Okay, I can call this self call this function. Hi will be printed. That's okay. Okay, so can I access this variable outside this function console.log? If I say a here, you cannot access this variable, guys. You cannot access. If you don't want this to be called, you can do like this for a while. And let's run this code. And here write down node space iafe.js. You see, error will come. You cannot access this variable a because the scope of this variable a is up to this IIF function only. Within the function only you can access. Outside you cannot access. Okay, you can restrict the scope of this part. A new scope will be created up to this function only, and outside the function, these are encapsulated otherwise. Okay, with inside this function. Within the function you can access, but outside the function you cannot access. Now if I self call this function, okay, and if here I'll print plus a here, that's okay, it will happen. Okay, hi 5 will be printed now. The let's do one thing. Outside the function you cannot access, but within the function, what is the problem here? I need to call this function, guys. I need to call this function. So here only I'll call the function within this IIF function only. I'll call the it's part of the function. Okay, so with this things are going to work fine. You see, high 5 will be printed. So hope, guys, you understood about IIF function in JavaScript. Okay, so we don't have to go too deep into this. Whatever I covered so far is more than enough, guys. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye bye. Hello all. Welcome to another session in this course. As part of this session, I am going to cover the next topic, that is generator function in JavaScript. So let's get started. So what I'm going to cover here, I'm going to cover one of the type of functions in JavaScript, that is generator function in JavaScript. What is this generator function in JavaScript and what is its use? Using the generator function, we can produce a sequence of values. Okay? By using the generator function, the purpose of the generator function is to produce a sequence of values, guys. Okay? If you want to produce a sequence of values with the help of a function, then you have to go and use generator function. But in order to use generator function, you need to understand few things. You need to use this asterisk symbol. Okay, for using this generator function, you have to use a asterisk symbol, and this asterisk symbol should be followed by the function keyword. So function asterisk you need to use. Second thing that you need to use is yield keyword. Okay, yield keyword you have to use along with the generator function, and the next one we have to use is next method we have to use. These are the three items that we have to use with the generator function in JavaScript in order to produce a sequence of values. Now let me explain this in a practical way. For that, I'll launch Visual Studio Code and here write down generator.js, and here let me create a generator function. How to create a generator function? If you want to create a traditional function, you'll give function name like this. But here I want to create a generator function. How the generator function is different from the traditional function creation? Okay, you just need to put hashtag symbol here, guys. Okay, then it will become a generator function. Without hashtag symbol, this is a traditional function, but if you put hashtag symbol, it will become a generator function. That's one thing. And inside this generator function, you need to write yield keyword followed by any value. It can be any value. That's okay. Whatever the values this particular function need to produce as a sequence of values, right, that you can provide with the help of yield keyword. So many values if you want to provide, you can write like this: yield 4, yield 5, yield 9, yield 10, and so on. Okay, you can provide any values. Okay, use with the help of the yield keyword inside this function. The next thing that I want to do here is the next thing that I want to do here is the next thing that I want to do here is how to use this generator function to generate a sequence of values from it. For that, guys, for that, we need to call this function. Whatever the generator function is there, we need to call that. How to call? Fun A is the name of the function, right? And this will return you, okay? This will return you something like const, let's say fun, okay? Const fun, like this. Now, I called this function and all these values will come here and will be there here. Now, using the fun, what I'll do here is I'll write console.log fun dot next, I'll say. Let's see what will happen with the fun dot next first of all. Okay, there's a next one. Okay, next means the first value will be retrieved. Okay, so let's see whether the value is getting retrieved or not. Let's see first. Okay, I'll go to the terminal and run this generator.js. And if I run this, you see value 1 done false is coming. Okay, but I only want this value. If you only want to get this value, this is a value you want to get, right? If you want to get the value at the end of the next, you write value. Okay, then only this particular value will be retrieved. If you run this, you see 1 got retrieved. Okay, value 1 got retrieved. Otherwise, this kind of item will come. Now the next item, if I want console.log fun dot, this fun is nothing but the constant here. Okay, which is a return of this function a while calling fun dot. Then I have to write next. I have to write next. Then again value. Next item. Next value in this generator function 2 will be retrieved. You see 2 got retrieved. Similarly, console.log fun dot next. If I want to get the value of that item value. How many elements are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are there. So I'll write this 6 times. 6 times if I call this next method, one by one sequence of values from this generator function, it will retrieve like this. Okay. Now run this. Let me run this, guys. Clear. And let's run this and see all the values 1, 2, 4, 5, 9, 10 got retrieved. So this is how, guys, we need to use the generator function. This is how we need to use a generator function in JavaScript. Okay, instead of writing so many statements like this, let me comment them. What I can do is I can use for loop also. For let f, okay, for let f uh, in for let f in fun. This is a fun, right? For let f in fun. Let's see what will happen here. I'll write console.log f dot f. Just simply say f. Let's see what is happening. Then clear. Nothing is coming, right? Nothing is getting printed. Okay. So there are some nodes with me. Let me use the nodes to understand how to use it. You can also use for loop. You can also use for loop, guys. There are multiple ways of using. You can also use for loop. Yeah, off operator I need to use. I was using in operator. For let f off. Okay. For let f off fun and run this now. You see all the values will be coming. Okay. All these values. Okay, there's a simplest way, or you can also use the next method like this, or you can use for off loop also with this generator function to generate the values like this. Okay, so what else then? You can actually create a generator function which can generate infinite number of values also, guys. We can generate a infinite amount of values also. How to generate infinite amount of values? Here is one example is there. This kind of function you can create, guys. Okay. Infinite values it can generate. Yield keyword you have to use here, okay? Every time you can use yield keyword here and it will return. First it will start with I is equal to 0 while true, yield plus plus, okay? Whenever you call this, this will happen. So let me go here and, generator hyphen 2.js I'll write, and here I'll create a generator function, generator hashtag, okay, fun in inf, fun infinite, okay, just give some name, that's okay. Fun infinite, inside this write the logic, let I is equal to 0, initial value of the I is 0, then while always, I am making the while always true, so this while loop will be iterated infinite times, right? So here I'll write while I is equal to, then yield I, okay, yeah, then I plus plus, I can say I plus plus and then say or I can say yield I plus plus otherwise, okay, yield I plus plus, that's it. Okay, this will iterate infinite times, and whenever you call it will yield this particular value, okay, incremented plus plus I'll say otherwise, okay. Let's see what will happen. So this is one of the thing I have written infinite, and here I'll write console.log. Okay. First of all, I need to call the function, right? Fi is equal to fi function infinite is equal to function fun infinite. I'll call like this, and I'll just write const here or let here whatever it may be, and here console.log fi dot next dot value. If I say what is the value that is coming, the first value one should come, I think. Let's try this out, see whether it is working fine or not. Generator hyphen 2.js. You see one came. If I call it second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, seventh time, eighth time, ninth time, 10th time, 11. Okay, infinite times, guys. You can call this next method any number of times. How many number of times you call, that many numbers will come. You see, that many numbers will come. If you call this, you see, it will keep on generating the values that you need. Okay. Here, 24 times I'm thinking. Just copy pasting this. Not getting control C. And here I'll write down control V and C, clear, run this. You see, 88 times it called. Okay. So there is no limit. Okay. This kind of function, if you create infinite number of values, you can generate produce as a sequence of values while calling this function and calling this next method with value and all. So all this kind of stuff is possible with the help of this generator function in JavaScript, guys. So hope guys you understood what exactly is a generator function and how to use it for your purpose and all. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye bye. Hello all, welcome to another session in this course. As part of this session, I am going to cover the next topic, that is higher order functions in JavaScript. So let's get started. What exactly are higher order functions? Let me type it here first. Higher order functions in JavaScript. A function which can intake a function and return a function. Okay, a function in JavaScript, which can intake another function as an argument into its parameter and return back a function is generally called as a higher order functions. So what is the purpose? In real time, if you want to create a generic function, okay, you have a lot of functions, and for all these functions, you want to create a common function using which you can call. Instead of individually calling the different functions, you want to create a common function or generic function using which you can call the remaining functions. Okay, we have to create the higher order function which can intake, okay, which can intake or pass another function as an argument and also return back a function. Okay. So when I explain this in a practical way, you will understand what exactly are the higher order functions. For that, I'll launch the Visual Studio Code and we'll clearly give you an example of higher order function here. It will be very easy. So let's go here and let me create here higher.js for now. And here I want to create some functions, guys. Function name. Let's say add a comma b. This is one function I am creating, traditional function. And here I'll say return a plus b. The sum of a plus b I want to return when I call this function. Then I want to create another function subtraction a comma b. Here I'll write down return a minus b. Then I want to create another function multiply. That is a comma b. That is return a into b. Then one more function. So many functions I am creating. Div a comma b. Then I'll return here return a divided by b. Okay. Like that, I created some functions here. Okay. Like this, I created one function. Okay. So yeah, that's fine. Okay, here we have four functions. Okay, one is addition function, subtraction, multiplication, division. Okay, if I want to call any of these functions, I have to call them individually. Okay, using separate names. For example, if I want to call the add function, I have to pass like this 5 comma 4. Okay, and you can write here simply this particular function is returning the value, right? I'll just write here console.log add of. I'm calling this function 5 comma 4. I'm calling. Similarly, if I want to call subtraction function, here also I'm passing 5 comma 4. Then if I want to call this multiplication function, then mul of 5 comma 4 in this example. You see, every function need to be called separately using their own names. I don't have a common function here. Div 5 comma 4, like that I can do, and I can run this code, guys. Just let's say clear and node space. Traditionally, this is how we write, right? .js, and you will get the results 9 1 20. Okay, 5 4 is 20, 5 plus 4 9, 5 minus 4 1, 5 divided by 4 is 1.25, like that we got. But what I will do here is, for all these functions, I'm going to create a common function, okay? So whenever I want to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, I don't have to call it separately. And then I would like to call via another function. So what I will do here is, I'm going to create a higher order function here. How to create function order? I just need to give the name of the function as an order. Okay, I need to give the name of the function. Instead of giving separate names, I have to give the order. And here a comma b, but first one should be the function name. For example, if I here fun name, I'll say, okay, function name. Now here function name fun name a comma b, and then this is going to be written. Okay, what is a higher order function? A function which will pass a function as an argument and will return the function as a return type is called as a higher. This is a higher order function we have created. Now in this case of when you create a higher order function, okay, you can call something like this, guys. Instead of calling like this, you can call something like this. So you can call the order function order, and in that add function 5 comma 4, like this you can call. Okay, then here via order function you are going to do all this stuff. Here pass the function name subtraction. When you pass subtraction to this order function, here sub will go, and here subtraction of a comma b will be called, and the result of this particular thing will be returned. Okay, then here instead of mul, I'll just say order. Here mul 5 comma 4. Here order div 5 comma 4. Like this we can do. Okay, so with the help of the order function, I don't have to call these functions directly. Via the order function, a common function, I'll be passing different values here and pass. Okay, then clear this out and run this. You see, still I'll get the same output. Okay, with the help of higher order function, I'm calling all the remaining functions. What is a higher order function? Higher order function is a function which can pass a function as an argument and return the function as a return type. Okay, so like this, we have to create a higher order function. Okay, when you have this kind of functions, I want to create a common function name. Then you can create a higher order function which can pass function as an argument and return function as a return type. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye bye.